Foxborough is not in vacation mode. It is in cut-down mode, pressure mode, decision mode. The Patriots are walking into this summer with a defensive line room that might be too crowded for everyone to feel safe, an edge rusher market that could explode right in the AFC East's face, a star corner waiting on star-level money, and an undrafted rookie trying to kick the door open by force. Drop a like right now because today is not a soft conversation. This is roster pressure, big names circling, serious money on the table, and one question every rival should hate. Is New England rebuilding or getting ready to strike? The Patriots' defensive line was one of the few areas last year where nobody had to twist themselves into knots defending the team. Milton Williams brought weight, Christian Barmore brought presence, Khyiris Tonga, Corey Durden, Leonard Taylor III, Joshua Farmer, Eric Gregory, Jeremiah Farms Jr. Everybody at some point helped turn that room into one of New England's strongest spots in 2025. But that is exactly where the problem begins. When a room gets that crowded, somebody ends up paying the price. And Joshua Farmer could be that guy. Not because he is bad, not even close. Farmer arrived as a fourth-round pick in 2025, flashed when he got his opportunity, showed real power against the run, posted 15 tackles, 1 pass breakup, and a fumble recovery before a hamstring injury wiped away the rest of his season. The talent is real. The problem is, the NFL does not pause while you quietly rebuild your own momentum. While Farmer was sidelined, Leonard Taylor III kept getting called up from the practice squad and started making noise. And not some cute little hard worker noise. Real impact. It was capped off by that field goal block that sealed the game against the Denver Broncos in the AFC Championship. Plays like that shift the internal conversation. They shift trust. They shift how a coach views a roster spot. Mike Vrabel already sent the message without having to scream it. He said he was excited about the group, mentioned Leonard Taylor and Eric Gregory, said Farmer is back healthy, and made it obvious there will be competition in training camp. And when Vrabel says the lines of scrimmage are critical, he is not just tossing out a random press conference quote. He is telling everybody the fight starts right there, and whoever cannot meet that standard will be watching from the outside. So Farmer is not just fighting one player, he is fighting depth, lost time, guys who took advantage of their opening, and a coaching staff that looks determined to turn every roster spot into a real battle. For the Patriots, that is a great thing. For Farmer, it is dangerous. Because in Foxborough, promise gets you into the building. Staying on the roster has to be earned with force. From that internal battle, the conversation moves into a much wilder hunt. Edge rusher. After an offseason where A.J. Brown dominated so much of the imagination around New England, the next obvious hole is pressure off the edge. And when Maxx Crosby's name enters the conversation, nobody gets to sit there and pretend they are calm. That is the kind of name that changes protections, changes game plans, and makes an opposing quarterback feel the stadium before the snap even arrives. ESPN's Dan Graziano put the Patriots among the realistic landing spots if Crosby gets moved again by the Raiders. And the part that should set off a flashing red light in Foxborough is simple. The Buffalo Bills were mentioned too. That changes the entire tone. Suddenly, this is not just an interesting opportunity, it is a strategic fight inside the division. Because if the Patriots need an impact pass rusher, the Bills know exactly what a player like that could mean in an AFC race. But this chase is not clean. Crosby is coming off a 10-sack season, has 2 All-Pro selections, 69.5 sacks in 7 years, 133 tackles for loss, and 11 forced fumbles. Production? Wild. Resume? Heavy. Competitive violence? Exactly the type of thing a New England defense should want. But the knee sits right in the middle of the whole story. He has not played a full season since 2023, dealt with a meniscus issue, had surgery, and according to Graziano, trade talk probably does not truly heat up until he gets on the field and proves he is healthy, maybe in August or even later. That is where excitement has to separate itself from desperation. The Patriots cannot act like a needy team that sees a famous name and immediately hands over the vault without asking tough questions. Las Vegas reportedly already had a deal with Baltimore for 2 first-round picks, and that fell apart because of the medicals. There was also reporting that Cincinnati offered the number 10 overall pick, but the Raiders still wanted a second first-rounder. So the price they appear to want is brutal. For New England, that matters even more because the team already sent its 2028 first-round pick to Philadelphia. So the question is not just whether Crosby is good. He is. The question is whether the package, the health, and the timing all make sense for a Patriots team trying to speed things up without wrecking its own flexibility. And if Crosby is too expensive, The search does not stop there. Kayvon Thibodeaux has also moved into the speculative radar, with Graziano pointing out that Shane Bowen is now on Mike Vrabel's defensive staff. Thibodeaux is 25 years old, explosive, full of potential, but he also has a recent injury history and an uncertain situation with the Giants while playing on his fifth-year option in 2026. The bigger signal is this. New England looks like it is circling the edge rusher market like a team that knows it still needs more bite. And I like that. Passive teams learn to live with holes. Serious teams identify them, calculate, apply pressure, and wait for the right moment to attack. And then we get to the subject no rival wants to see resolved in New England, Christian Gonzalez and his new contract. There is a massive difference between rebuilding a roster and leaving the cleanest piece of your defense waiting while the market keeps climbing. Gonzalez skipped voluntary organized activities while looking for a new deal, and that puts direct pressure on the Patriots' table. He is still under contract through 2027 after the fifth-year option was picked up, but let's not pretend that detail fixes everything by itself. A player at this level is not treated like a regular piece. Ian Rappaport went on the Pat McAfee show and gave Patriots fans an encouraging read. According to him, there is a good chance Gonzalez gets that deal before Week 1, even though he has not heard anything suggesting it is coming in the next few days. That is the right temperature for this story. Not panic, but not dead either. Big negotiation, big money, big impact. And when we talk about big money, the market has already kicked the door open. Trent McDuffie became the highest-paid cornerback in the league at $31 million per year with the Rams. Karen Garigian of Mass Live reported that Gonzalez could seek an average annual value of at least $35 million. Strong? Yes. Heavy? Absolutely. But tell me this. What is the price of having a Pro Bowl corner who lets your defense breathe differently? That is the part some national commentators love to ignore when they talk about the Patriots. They demand an aggressive rebuild. They demand premium talent. They demand that New England get back to intimidating people. But when it is time to pay a player who actually changes the ceiling of the defense, suddenly everybody acts shocked. No. If this franchise wants respect again, it has to recognize its pillars before the conversation turns into pointless tension. Rappaport said he imagines Gonzalez getting a massive deal and believes the Patriots will make it work. That line matters because it matches the logic of this moment. Mike Vrabel is trying to build a physical, competitive team that is hard to break. To do that, yes, you need pressure up front, but you also need a defender who can erase half the conversation on the perimeter. Gonzalez is not a luxury. He is foundation. And good foundation costs money because it holds the building up when the wind starts hitting. Now look at how this final story connects back to the first one, only from the other side of the door. Earlier, we talked about a defensive room deep enough to put real pressure on Joshua Farmer. Here comes David Blay Jr., a name with no draft spotlight, no national parade, no automatic boost from being a high pick, trying to prove there is still room for someone to rip a roster spot away with motor, repetition, and force. Gary Davenport from Bleacher Report picked Blay as the Patriots' best undrafted free agent, and that is interesting because there were more talked about names in this class. Kyle Dixon impressed at rookie camp. Miles Montgomery and Channing Canada got strong UDFA deals. So why look at Blay? Because the need on the defensive line is still sitting there, tucked behind the bigger names but very real. New England lost Khyiris Tonga in free agency, and that departure left a hole that should not be brushed off like some tiny detail. Milton Williams and Christian Barmore are the pillars. Corey Durden probably fits in right behind them. Joshua Farmer is in the fight, but defensive tackle depth in the NFL is not decoration. It is survival. It is rotation. It is getting through December without turning into a team that can be moved around through the middle. Blay has a weird profile, and sometimes that is exactly what makes a player interesting. He is 6'2" and 292 pounds, small for an NFL defensive tackle, especially if the idea is to hold up as a nose tackle. That size works against him. No reason to romanticize it. The league swallows interior players who cannot anchor. But his 2024 resume at Louisiana Tech stands out. 10.5 tackles for loss and 6.5 sacks. For an interior player, that shows activity, pursuit, the ability to get into the backfield and bother people. Ryan Roberts from A to Z Sports pointed to that exact energy. Blay is undersized, but extremely active, plays with a high motor, and shows flashes of penetrating through one gap. That is the kind of thing Mike Vrabel respects. Not the label, not the hype, the tape, the practice reps. The answer when somebody bigger tries to knock you out of the play. But there has to be accountability here too. At Miami in 2025, Blay did not have the same impact. 2.5 tackles for loss, no sacks in 13 games. So you cannot sell this like some hidden gem already polished and ready to go. This is a summer bet, a fight for attention, the kind of player who needs to make noise early, because undrafted players do not get endless patience. And I want to hear from the fan base. Would you bet on that kind of undersized motor to steal a roster spot? Or would you rather see the Patriots go get a heavier, more established defensive tackle before the season? Because in Foxborough, the message is meritocracy. Now Blay has to turn that message into contact. So this is the picture of the day. Nothing in Foxborough feels comfortable, and that is a good thing. Farmer has to survive a defensive room that will not wait on pedigree. Crosby and Thibodeaux show the Patriots may be searching for elite aggression off the edge. Gonzalez is the kind of star you pay before it becomes a saga. And Blay represents the harshest and most beautiful part of roster building. Nobody cares where you came from, only what you can prove. This rebuild cannot be timid. It has to bite, choose, pay who deserves it, and cut whoever cannot keep up. If you want daily Patriots coverage like this, subscribe to the channel and stay with us.